This one's for the culture. Me and wifey in the room thinking of a master plan, thinking how we can influence the culture from where we stand. Knowing that our steps are ordered by the master's hand, still 10 toes down, we ain't switching up the stance. The mission of this music ain't just to make them dance, trying to tell them about the rock, cause they build.
And welcome to our Magic Johnson episode. That's episode 32 of The Bond Chronicles. I am Mr. Bond Chronicles on Instagram and Mr. Ray Bond on Twitter. And my host here I have is
Mrs. Bond Chronicles on Instagram, Twitter, you know.
Great.
The struggle.
Yes. So we are on Twitter. We are on YouTube. Continue to like, share, and subscribe. We are steadily climbing. Our Kevin Samuels episode still gets comments, so we might have a moment in history on our hands at this point. But shout out to him and his platform. Shout out to us and what we've done. Shout out to you for what you're doing. We recognize people that may be watching. It's been a rough week or two for quite a few different people.
Yeah.
So definitely want to send our condolences out to those people, praying for comfort for you in this time. Hopefully we can bring some entertainment to you. We got some good topics to get into here today. Yeah. So episode 32, we can jump into it. Or did you have anything else?
No?
I
don't think so.
We'll also check out our Facebook. There will be pictures. We didn't. I guess I'll mention we had our baby shower this past weekend. So
that was dope.
It was. So we will have pictures, videos, and things like that posted. Typically, we try and keep things on our Bond Chronicles social media, strictly Bond Chronicles. But since we've talked a ton about parenting, and we're going to talk more about parenting here today, I felt it was beneficial to kind of share.
I mean, the kids are kind of like, they're part of the Bond Chronicles. Like, they give us a lot of material to work with. Like,
yeah, but we don't post them on our social media for the podcast.
Maybe we should change that. I don't know.
I disagree.
Okay, or not.
We talked about it. We looked at some different people, and I was showing you, typically, podcast social media is podcast social media. Unless it's like huge events like
the baby shower, or if we got married, or something like that. We're already married. So.
I was giving an example of something.
Okay.
So we're also a fast start here. So yeah, we had quite a few big announcements, some of which we'll get to. But because we have to be responsible, we did hear about R. Kelly. We're not going to get into that here today. Something we probably will revisit maybe in a bonus episode, maybe not. Or maybe even next week, but we didn't want to have this episode without touching base on it. It's crazy. He has to wait until May to get sentenced, which, again, I don't know how the legal system works, but that's how the legal system works. So, yeah, I did want to make sure that we acknowledge that, his rightful conviction. I know we've talked about that, him a bit on this episode, and my thing was, don't say anything until there's a final verdict, and now we have that. So he was found guilty.
What if we talked about him?
We mentioned him a couple times where you've said, like, separating the artist from the art. And he's somebody that you can't do that with. And we talked about him versus Chris Brown and him versus other people. And you've just said, nah.
Oh, yeah, I guess that's true. I mean, it remains the same. Like, he's a garbage person. And for him, like, well, I mean, we'll get into it.
Yeah. But. So, in the spirit of music, in a positive note, not that guy, we have the BET Hip Hop Awards that are tomorrow night. And I will say we've talked about a number of award shows on this podcast. We did not talk about, the Emmys was the last one, where like no black people won.
Oh, yeah, we didn't talk about that.
Outside of for writing credit. But as far as the actor roles, nobody won anything for that. And we didn't talk about it, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it here because I'm not really surprised. That's how things are. But we have an opportunity to embrace our award show. And so we talk about Black Wall Street. We talk about Black excellence. We talk about supporting Black businesses. We talk about all this Black-centric stuff. But historically, I feel like people have kind of poo-pooed what the Hip Hop Awards or BET Awards are. And I don't feel like that's right because in essence, for me, it's the narrative of we're seeking validation from white people. Oscars, Emmys, Tonys, what's the other thing? There's another big one. Oscars, Emmy, Tonys, Grammys. And so typically that is the validation. Unless you're Kanye West and you pee on it, or something like that. But typically speaking, the quote unquote white award shows are the ones that get the publicity. Those are the ones that people celebrate. Those are the ones that you can negotiate bigger contracts, bigger deals for. And the BET Awards or the BET Hip Hop Awards is kind of like just a thing for Black people. And I really hope that we can begin to rewrite that narrative. I've seen some more support for it on socials, but we're going to get into kind of some of the performers and then some of the topics. And for me, they make it hard because I don't know the time frame that they're judging, but I don't feel like this award show, based on the nominations and things I've seen, will properly tell the story of what this year was in hip hop. And this has been a massive year in hip hop. Like, we just got a Meek album, which we're not going to talk about, but Wale released a single. Pretty much anybody who's anybody. Wayne dropped a dual mixtape with Rich the Kid. Everybody's put out music. And I don't understand the lead time. I don't understand how these things work. But based on the nominations and the performance and the awards, I don't see that being reflective of hip hop. But that's my 2 cents.
Once upon a time, people would go and participate and celebrate the BET Awards. Like, when they first started happening, like, I remember everybody was there and the performances were great. Like, you agreed. And even when you disagreed, like, the people who were nominated and won in the different categories, like, you understood why and how and all of that. But I think there's like a gap in time when management of BET, like the company itself,
Bob Johnson sold it.
Yeah, even when Deborah took over and she was doing everything she was doing, and then it changed hands from her to the next person, like, all of that, I think is when you really saw that, although it says BET is, Black entertainment, like, it wasn't representative of Black people and where we were going. It was a lot of that same, like the hood ghetto stuff. Like, it was a lot of the content that they were producing at that time period. It just was awful. And even Black people were just like, come on, we're not even like this anymore. Right. And the award shows were really reflective of that. And so people stopped showing up. So people stopped watching. Like, you would watch it, and more than half of the people who were receiving awards weren't even there to get them. And then the performances were just like, I don't even know who this person is on the stage. Like, it just had a really bad fall off. And I guess in the last 4-ish years, they've been trying to change that. Like, they've changed a lot of their content. And then especially within like the last 2 years, they've gotten more in touch with who their actual audience is. And they've changed content, and they've done a lot better at producing the show, getting people there that folks want to see. But it became a joke because it was a joke for a little bit. And so I think as they continue down the path that they're on, like, as they start to get more people back interested in the award shows, then maybe they can bring up the caliber of quality. But again, as a community, if we don't support it, then what does it all really mean? It doesn't matter. But like you said, I think because the industry still puts so much emphasis on those other awards, until we start, like, even the NAACP awards, like, those I think have been really good in the last few years. Like, all of the actors who got snubbed at various award shows got respect at those at the NAACP awards. The Stellar Awards, that's predominantly produced by a Black organization. That's a really good award show. So I think until we as a community start really paying attention and supporting and talking about and tweeting about these award shows, no one else is going to care, because that's just what the wave is.
And so I agree. I agree with that. I believe we're in a different era where we're starting to try and reclaim Black excellence and our culture. My problem in that becomes, and J. Cole's on tour right now, right?
I've heard it's really good.
So my issue, and I don't think they can plan this. I'm sure this was planned probably a year in advance. But I think the problem right now is we have the hip hop awards, and every major hip hop artist is on tour. So what we get Baby Keem, Bia, Gunna, Isaiah Rashad, Lil Jon, Toby, and what?
Yeah, I can't pronounce his name.
I don't know. And I like him. He's dope.
I do too.
And then Young Thug.
Those are the performances?
So for me, when I look at this year in hip hop, I think of big albums. I think of big collabs. Baby and Durk are on tour. They're not going to be there. We just talked about J. Cole's not going to be there. I don't know if Tyler's on tour.
I don't think he is, actually.
I don't think he is. And I think this is just hip hop, which is weird.
Yeah,
that they're not. I don't know if there's a separate R&B award or if that's supposed to get loved on the BET Awards.
That's the BET Awards. They do like everything.
Yeah, I don't like that. Like hip hop and R&B, there should be an R&B section because her needs her respect.
But I feel like she got it at the BET Awards.
No. I didn't feel that way. I don't even think she performed, did she?
I thought she did. I know she won because her mom came up there with her.
I don't know. We have to check that. But there's been a bunch of dope R&B artists that have come out since then. Like Snow definitely didn't get recognized, and I think that album was great. Seven obviously just came out. Apparently Summer's on her way, so I'm not gonna go down that path. But
it was Jasmine Sullivan who came up with her mom.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, like she in the category that she was nominated in, she lost to Jasmine.
Shouldn't have. Although that album was really dope. But no, so to follow that up, so we have certain people I give like exemptions. You know, Baby and them, they're on tour. There's the Legends Out Back in the Streets tour with Jeezy, 2 Chainz, Gucci, Boosie. So a bunch of them aren't going to be there. Granted, not many of them have put out music recently, but they can't be there to perform. Got it. But then there's still some other massive names that aren't performing. Wale, apparently you have music coming. Why aren't you performing? Meek, you just put out an album. Why aren't you performing? Jay and Beyonce, why aren't y'all performing? Diddy, you have music coming. Why aren't you performing? Like, there's a bunch of massive artists that could still perform that aren't. I don't even know if they'll be in attendance, but that to me is still problematic. And that we've watched all them other award shows and we saw the same recycled Doja, Meg, and Cardi pretty much rotated. Lil Baby had a couple, I think, performances still this year. But I get y'all don't want to touch the baby. Still a live show killer. He's not performing. Like, there's just Fabio, who put out an album this year. He's dope. He's not performing.
What's that guy? 42.
42 does, but I think he might be on the Durk and Baby tour. Maybe. Because I know he runs with them a lot. But that's kind of the disappointment for me. But then I look at the nominations, and I think they missed again. I do like two. We just saw that we didn't just see, but we saw that there were two things. DJ of the Year, which the people can vote on. I think that's a dope new category, especially through COVID.
Yeah. And
how Versus started, but how DJs were doing their DJ sets. I think that's great that they're going to be recognized. I would love to see D-Nice for what he did, but Cassidy had a really dope year as well. So a number of DJs did some really good things. So I'm good with that. Best hip hop platform. I think that's dope. One, I think it'll raise awareness for some of these platforms that may not get as much love because Genius, I'm not familiar with them.
I like Genius. Of all of the ones that are nominated, that's probably my favorite one. Really? Yeah. And
then shout out to Shade Room because they got a nom here. Complex, Breakfast Club. So I think that's dope. I think that's really dope that they're taking time. One, people can vote on that too. So if you haven't voted, I believe there's still time to vote as time of this airing. So I think that's cool. I think that's a step in the right direction. And then we get into best hip hop video. And we have Up. How long ago was that?
The last
year. Was that in 2021?
I don't think so.
All right, I think that's 2020.
Yeah.
WAP, super old. Go Crazy, great song, super old. Laugh Now, Cry Later. That wasn't even on Drake's album. It's that old.
I mean, it was this year. It was early this year.
But it wasn't on the 3-pack and it wasn't on his album. So it's super old.
Right, but it was this year at least.
But my point
These other songs, Go Crazy, that was last year. Montero.
That was this year.
That was this year?
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't even know how that's best hip hop video.
And that's the thing, even for Lil Nas X, like I didn't think that he was hip hop. Like there wasn't like I thought he was a pop artist.
I thought he was a country artist initially.
No, I never thought he was country.
He won country awards.
I mean, he did. Begrudgingly, he did. But I still wouldn't have considered him country. I would have considered him pop. And even now, like there's nothing about him or the music of his that I have listened to that says hip hop artist. So I don't think, and this is no shade on him, like I don't think he deserves to be nominated in this category at all. Like video of the year at MTV Awards, that makes sense. Video of the year at the Hip Hop Awards, not so much.
So that was a bunch of misses there for best hip hop. And again, I don't watch a ton of videos, but there was a number of others that I think could have won. Best collaboration. Again, like, and I'm a huge Dirk fan. I've become a huge Dirk fan. But Laugh Now, Cry Later, there's been bigger collaborative efforts. WAP, Mr. Right Now, most people don't even know that song.
Yeah, I think in that category, Bia and Nicki are gonna win. And
that's a shame because every chance I get, love that song. Still play it in the car occasionally when I'm going to work. Every chance I get. Off Khaled's album.
Yeah.
And I thought, there was the one. Did you see they had the cartoons about it where they were in the studio as a cartoon of Lil Durk and Lil Baby, and Durk's like getting mad, and Khaled's like, keep going, and Baby just keeps rapping.
No, I didn't see that. You'll have to show it to me.
It was entertaining. But Back in Blood for the street people, apparently that's the anthem of the clubs of the year. So some of those are right, but again, all those songs are pretty outdated at this point, and so I don't know the time frame, but that was probably the most disappointing thing for me. Song of the year, like Roddy Ricch, Late at Night, like that. It's old now. Like song of the year. There's no way that's song of the year. Obviously, we got no Certified Lover Boy on here. We got no Donda. No 95 South's not on here for Song of the Year. No J. Cole options. No Nas, and even the Nas and Lauryn Hill song that everybody loved.
Yeah.
That didn't give it. We got Up. We got WAP. Whole Lot of Money remix. Laugh Now, Cry Later, and Back in Blood. So we got Lil Durk for every chance I get for best collab, but then they're not even up for Song of the Year. Like, it's just certain things that I don't know who was in control of it. I'm not going to get into some of these other ones. Best featured verse, impact track, Montero Called My Name. Please don't let me go on that tangent. I would love to see Lil Baby and Kirk Franklin win for We Win. I definitely think that was a very impactful song for me off of the Space Jam soundtrack.
I like the Raspberry nomination.
Impact? What did it impact?
I just appreciate the fact that they even nominated her. One, because she still does not get a whole lot. When I think of lyricists, when I think of female rappers, she is really, really good.
I agree.
But for the body of work that she's put out compared to the popular female rappers of today, she does not get the respect she deserves. Like, I would even like to see Cash Doll nominated. Like, if you're fine with what Meg Thee Stallion does, Cash Doll should definitely be on this list. Like, I can think of like 4 or 5 other female rappers who deserve to be just even in the conversation, and they're not. And like, I like Cardi, but Cardi has not put out any new music in a minute, and she's completely content doing everything else that she's doing.
She's really made it clear herself. Y'all ain't getting no music anytime
soon. Like her and what's his face, Offset are in Paris right now, so they're not even going to be at the award show. Like,
right, it's Fashion Week, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they've been tearing up Fashion Week. Meg the Stallion, like, I don't hate her.
I've seen her on every award show all year long.
I have, and I think the irritating point for me is that the music that she gets nominated for isn't really as good as the other music of hers that I've actually listened to. Like, I think she has freestyles that are better than pretty much all the music on her albums. And I don't understand it. And again, this is the hip hop awards. And I know that people consider rappers different from lyricists or whatever, but people who like hip hop, people who love rap music, like, you look at the artists that are nominated and you think of like all the music that came out up. And like, let's say even if they had to cut off what you could submit for a nomination, let's say August. A lot of music came out this year up until August. And to see the nominations, you would think that I don't know. Like, it irks me that J. Cole was only nominated for a couple songs. It bothers me that Nas isn't getting more acknowledgement. But then I also have to think about the other people who care about this genre of music, and they don't listen to a lot of Nas. Nas is an old head. They don't listen to a lot of J. Cole because J. Cole don't be saying nothing. J. Cole don't speak to those people. But then when I think about even the stuff that was nominated for that body of work, like, I don't know, it's disappointing. Like, I'm gonna watch because I support Black folks and Black people doing positive Black things. And I guess I want to see some of the performances. Maybe, I don't know. It's just different.
Yeah. So although my goal is to obviously support because it is Black, I know things just got to get better. Like, Meg's nominated for Album of the Year. If you're going to have an award show in October, don't give me an album that came out in November of the year before.
Yeah, that came out last year.
Like, that's nuts. The album's almost a year old and it's up for Album of the Year, and it didn't do what it was supposed to do given all that was behind it. So we are going to watch because I believe it's our responsibility. I'm going to be rooting for a couple artists that are nominated, and it's a big night, big day for them. Again, Dirk's nominated for a bunch of stuff, but he's on tour. So is Lil Baby. So I don't know who's going to accept all these awards. Who Shiesty, who's nominated for Back in Blood twice, is in jail still. So I don't know. I don't know the thought process. I don't know who's in these rooms making these decisions, but hopefully they'll just continue to tweak and get better, and be a little bit more in touch or update their timeline to embrace a lot more of the artists that came out. So on that front of embracing artists and a huge shift from the narrative that we've seen in recent years, we got the Super Bowl came out with their new lineup, and it is
for the halftime show.
The halftime show, and it is power packed. We got Dr. Dre, we got Eminem, Mary J. Blige, Kendrick Lamar, and Snoop Dogg, and very possibly others could be named later, or make special guest appearances. So obviously, Colin Kaepernick is still without a job, and at this point, he's not getting one.
Yeah, it's dead.
But for a long time, the idea was, and Jay-Z had told people, like, don't do it. Don't do the Super Bowl. Don't give them your attention. Don't blah, 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 boycott the Super Bowl and halftime and all that. Then Jay-Z showed up as the new brand ambassador for the NFL and music and all of that. And then we got The Weeknd last year, which was decent.
It's awful.
Okay, she says awful. I thought it was decent. I'm not a big Weeknd fan, so I wasn't excited, so I had pretty low expectations. And now we have in LA, in Inglewood, the artist that we just named. So obviously a huge ticket, huge performances. And so, one, I don't know how Colin Kaepernick currently feels about this, but if we moved on beyond that, what do you think of the lineup?
I mean, I think the lineup is dope. Like, and we talked about this on the sports episode. I don't really pay much attention to football anymore a lot because of the whole Colin Kaepernick situation. And I was one of those people who was side-eyeing Jay-Z when he took on the position that he took on, because to me, at the time, it wasn't a good look. Considering, I mean, even when you look at the way that the players are being treated by the owners and the commissioner.
Right. And Eric Reid is now, Eric Reid is also without a job. He was one of the main supporters of Kaepernick, who in his last effort, I think he led the team in tackles, like was almost a Pro Bowler, an all-pro player, and now he can't get a job. But continue.
I don't like how they've handled the Deshaun Watson situation so far. Like, there's a lot of things about the NFL that I just can't get with anymore. And for me personally, throwing a bunch of black faces at the at the halftime show, I get it. It's for the entertainment portion of it, but I still want to know, why aren't there more black NFL team owners? I want to know why there aren't more black people in positions of power within the NFL. So I think it's super dope, this moment in history that is going to showcase hip hop. Like, it's not typically something that you see at the Super Bowl because they typically feel like that's not something that their audience wants to see. But I think the impact of the boycotting and people speaking out against the NFL has definitely showed them that a lot of their money also comes from the black community. So I think this is a great way to placate black folks and bring some of the viewership back in, even if it is just for Super Bowl halftime.
I think it's great marketing. I think the NFL is the NFL because of their marketing. It's one of those things, like, I heard the lineup and it's like, oh, that's so great. And then I'm like, but it's the NFL.
But it's the NFL, yeah.
If this was the NBA halftime, I'd be like, or All-Star Weekend, like, I'd be super pumped. But one, adding Eminem, to me, I've never been a huge Eminem fan. I don't think he fits. I don't see how Mary fits.
I mean, Eminem fits.
He fits with the group. Like, he's Dre, he's Aftermath, he's all that. So I get that. But how's he relevant to hip hop today?
I mean, technically, none of them have put out new music in.
But hip hop, but Snoop Dogg is still hip hop.
He is.
Dr. Dre, for what it's worth, him and Kendrick are still hip hop.
I mean, let people tell it, like, Eminem is still hip hop. Like, the whole beef he had with MGK, and there's been some other things that he's done since then and before then. Like, people still, and I think he put out some music not that long ago. I didn't listen to it because I liked old angry Eminem.
I mean, most people, old music is better anyway.
But for purposes of the performance, like, Eminem is commercially one of Dre's biggest artists ever. Yeah. So it makes sense that he's going to be there.
And I'm sure it is going to be great. Like, there's no doubt in my mind that creatively in that new stadium with all the technology, with the minds that are involved, the performance is going to be legendary. I don't doubt that at all. It's just hard for me to get excited about it. I will say I think this is going to be one of those Super Bowls where most people, when the halftime's been going on recently, people start talking or they walk away. People ain't walking away.
Oh, no, I'm watching. Like, I might not. I mean, I guess it depends. If we have people over, depending on how many people and how many females are here, I might watch the Super Bowl game. But I'll definitely tune in for halftime. And then I'll go back to doing whatever I was doing.
Great. I mean, it's a long way away. We haven't watched Super Bowl here yet.
We did. We watched it this year.
Did we? We didn't go over Chris's?
No, we had people come over.
Okay. Well, maybe we will. I don't know. By then, we'll have another child. So
yes.
A really small child.
A really small child.
So
we'll see.
I don't know. I'll have to figure that out.
He'll be like a month and some change old.
Yeah.
Barely.
So, I mean, again, I think it'll be super dope. I would say hearing, I think Snoop's set in Inglewood is probably going to get the biggest ovation, but
I'm thinking Kendrick. Personally, like for me, the most anticipated is definitely going to be Kendrick because one, we're waiting to see if he's going to drop an album this year.
There will be a while.
We've heard some features. There's been obviously movement and stuff on social media. So if Kendrick drops an album,
but I think regardless, he's not in the short time span that you have, unless he drops something legendary.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, I think it was just the way that he's already come out, like, swinging. Like, I think that he's about to drop some fire. Like,
a fire song doesn't mean it's going to be, because he has, like, you're probably going to get to do a verse or two, maybe 2 songs max. He has to do something better than the 2 songs that he has, which he has a couple, but he has some massive songs.
I mean, I was going to say, like, even if he just does Loyalty, like, that, I don't know. I think it hits different. One, yes, it's going to sound good because of where they are. But
he's doing Humble.
Yeah, I think he'll do Humble. I don't know. Like, he could pretty much perform any of his big hits, and they'd go really nicely for the Super Bowl performance. If somehow they work out a collab song between him, Dre, Snoop, and Eminem,
I don't want to say that. Like, this is like the last round of verses for me. When these people are up here on the stage, I just want to see you perform your biggest songs. That's what the Super Bowl is about. Don't give me this off-brand or this really dope song that y'all made up for this event. I don't want to hear that. I want to be able to rap or get hype along with whatever the performance is. Play your biggest joints. We know there's
so
like
what's Snoop gonna do?
I think it would do nothing. I'd have to think because he has about 5 huge songs.
Name them, please.
Like, he wouldn't do Drop It Like It's Hot. Nothing But a G Thing.
He's not doing that at the Super Bowl.
Why wouldn't he?
Because he's not doing that at the Super Bowl. Try again. He's not doing like Gin and Juice at the Super Bowl. He's not doing Murder Was a Case. Like, he's not doing.
I think I disagree.
We are going to get Hallmark Snoop. We're not getting.
No, we are not.
Yes, we are. Snoop has a whole brand. And, like, everybody loves him. Like, he's Uncle Snoop. He's in the Corona commercials. Like, he does his thing. But we're not getting.
Yes, we're not going to get Death Row Snoop. I could easily see Gin and Juice definitely being.
He's not doing Gin and Juice at the Super Bowl.
Why would he not do Gin and Juice?
Because I think he literally is doing Gin and Juice at the Super Bowl.
Okay. Well, we're going to agree to disagree.
That's not a quote-unquote family-friendly, appropriate
They didn't
song.
get these people to be family-friendly.
Yes, they did.
Okay. When Beyonce did Formation, was that family-friendly?
Do you know how much flack she got for that performance?
My point is...
Like, white folks were pissed.
Okay, but this guy, he doesn't come off as somebody that... Still Dre is definitely probably going to get played.
I think they'll do Still Dre because they can't not do Still Dre. Him and Dre on the same stage for the Super Bowl, they can't not do it. But
next episode, we're not getting that either.
We're not getting. They might do they will probably do like a melody of all of those. Still Dre. I
can easily see him going Drop It Like It's Hot, or no, he wouldn't do Beautiful. That's not big enough.
Like, I could.
He wouldn't do the Wheaton Boys because he's featured on that. But the Steelers won't be there because they suck. I think we're getting 2 out of those 3. We're getting Gin and Juice next episode of Still Dre or G Thing. We're getting 2 out of those.
Put money on it, Mister. I'm a betting man. I put money. We're not getting Gin and Juice.
Okay. I'm going to defer for the moment. I definitely think we're getting Still Dre in next episode. I don't know how many songs Snoop would get. But if Snoop does his, where it's his song, because these three are featuring Snoop. Snoop's song will be Gin and Juice. If he does a song by himself.
Not doing
so if he does a song by himself.
I think he would do Drop It Like It's Hot before Gin and Juice.
And that's family friendly. Can you imagine the visuals that are going to go Drop It Like It's Hot?
He doesn't have to have those kind of visuals.
What do you think visuals are coming with Drop It Like It's Hot?
Even when you look at the video, it's not a bunch of naked women dancing around, twerking and everything. And if people are okay with watching Meg at the Grammys,
so then you just completely contradict yourself with saying that it's going to be family friendly, because Meg and them were not family friendly.
What I'm saying is they're not going to have him up there rapping about smoking weed and drinking.
It's legal in California. What do you mean?
No,
the NFL just legalized weed.
I'm telling you, we're not getting Gin and Juice.
Okay.
We're just not.
All right. Well, agree to disagree.
I told you to put money on it.
I just don't know.
I can't renege.
I don't know what his set will be. I'm saying if he gets to do a song by himself, it's Gin and Juice. But I don't know how he's going to be incorporated.
He's probably going to do Drop It Like It's Hot. Like, I would say for him, he's probably going to do Drop It Like It's Hot.
Like, I don't know, we can bet, but if Snoop gets a single song by himself, I'm picking Gin and Juice. You can have Drop It Like It's Hot.
I'm saying that he's not performing Gin and Juice. I don't know what the difference is between what I just said and what
because
you just said.
I don't know if he's going to get to do a song by himself.
I mean,
like
it's a 20-minute performance.
Right, and there's like 6 artists. Kendrick has to do a song or two. M's going to want to do a song or two. Somehow Mary has to do a song.
I think Mary's going to be like featured, like singing on songs.
Dre's going to have maybe 2 or 3 songs. So the likelihood that Snoop Dogg is going to get a song by himself, I think, is small.
I think what more than likely is going to happen is going to be like a melody of like all of Dre's greatest songs and like the influence that Dre has had on all these people, individuals' career. Like we're probably going to get, what's that song? The Mary J. Blige song. You know, I can't think of the name of it. It's the one with the video and everybody's happy. Turn this Dre track way up high. It's like playing in my head and I literally can't think of the name of the song.
I don't know that song. But Mary shouldn't play that song.
She should. Like it's like one of her biggest songs. Like
in a dancery?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, yes. That should play.
Yes, he's gonna play because really the focus is Dre.
Right.
Like, so I think more than likely it's going to be a melody of songs that Dre has produced.
Right. He'll be on stage and then all these other people are going to keep coming up. Which is why I don't think we'll get Gin and Juice. Because
we're not going to get Gin and Juice.
Dre is going to be on stage and then M will come up and do a couple songs. Mary's going to come and it'll be these transitions.
They might have forgot about Dre. I don't see why they wouldn't. That was a really popular song. Him and Eminem did.
Yeah, I can see that.
They can. I mean, obviously they're going to do edited versions. They're not going to cuss.
Yeah, definitely not. That part of family friendly, but I don't even know what words they have to bleep out now because it will be on. I don't know, Super Bowl.
NBC, right?
NBC. I don't know, Fox.
No, it's CBS. I thought it's on NBC.
Okay, it'll be on one of those. So obviously, not getting any profanity.
You probably get A.
Yeah. But
I don't know.
We'll see.
But right.
It should be an entertaining experience, but I really wish. And again, I hope all the stuff Jay-Z's doing pays off and he gets a chance to buy a potential team at some point.
That's all I care about.
And at that point, it'll be like Obama in the White House. What are you going to do now that have a seat at the table? And I'm fairly optimistic that he'll do the right thing. Would he go out and hire Kaepernick by then? No. But maybe more stuff can change. So we'll see. But on the Dr. Dre tip, and we talked about this, I think, on a bonus episode before. But Dr. Dre's daughter has been really quiet ever since. Same thing with Kirk Franklin's son. They got their 15 minutes of fame or whatever, and then they faded away.
They faded back into obscurity.
Rightfully so. But in the situation with Dr. Dre's daughter, it had a lot of people divided as to how someone with obviously his resources and wealth could have a child that is homeless, and how could he live with himself with his, children being so in a tough spot when you could easily give them $5 million and it not touch you. So we wanted to kind of get more into, I guess, should the expectation in families that have wealth that the kids are straight no matter what, or should there be limitations in place that require them to figure life out without the security of the family wealth? And so as the mother, I'll let you go first, and I'm very curious to hear what you have to say as a woman, but we'll go from there.
Wow. Okay, as the woman of the house. Personally, I didn't have an issue with what Dre did. If you go back to the story, if you pull up the articles and the interviews that the daughter gave, she was good up until, I guess, maybe the pandemic and pre the divorce proceedings getting started for Dre, because Dre was supporting her life.
So real quick, so I know where I'm going when you're done. Are we focusing on Dre's situation specifically, or just people with wealth?
I mean, both.
Okay. I just see you focusing on the Dre, so I just wanted to make sure if that was where you were going or if it was going to be somewhere else. All right, keep going.
Okay.
Do your thing.
What was I saying? Yeah, like, she was fine as long as he was supporting her. And he'd been supporting her basically her entire life. And her complaint was in the last year, he'd stopped. And in a year's time frame, she went from living the high life basically to she didn't have a place to live. Her kids didn't have a place to live. She had no money. She had no job. She was paying like an exorbitant amount of money for a car she couldn't afford. Like, her life completely turned upside down because she had nothing. And Dre was just content with leaving her and her kids out in the street. And for me personally, I think about, even when I think about like how I grew up, like if I needed to come home, if there were issues or anything like that, and I needed my mom's support, she was there for me 1000%. But at the same time, there was an expectation for me to figure myself out. There's always an expectation for me to figure things out because I'm an adult. And regardless of the fact that I have a kid, she didn't have the kid. She didn't, she was never like threatening to leave us homeless or anything like that. But there was always, and as long as I can remember, a stress to be able to take care of yourself, regardless of who's providing for you, regardless of what's going on in your life. And so, so for me to read about this situation, I'm just thinking about the fact that up until a year ago, she had all resources available that people dream of being able to give their kids. People dream of the type of connections that she had through her father. Regardless of the relationship that she has with him, she still had access. And now, because we never figured out why he cut her off or what changed between them, that he decided to cut her off. But that's not just an out of the blue decision that a parent who's been supporting his kid their whole life, they just say, oh no, I'm done now, go live in the streets. That's failure on her part to recognize that one day her situation might change. Dre could have went bankrupt 10 years ago. I mean, it's like impossible at this point, but he very easily could have sunk all this money into Beats by Dre, and Beats by Dre didn't pop. And then he would have nothing, Like, there are so many ways that the wealth that she was relying on could have just gone. And she had no way to take care of herself. She had no way to take care of her kids. Like, to me, that's stupid. That's poor planning. That means you had no discipline with whatever allowance that he gave you. You didn't start any businesses. You didn't get any education. You didn't do anything for yourself to make sure that if your relationship with this man ever changed, you would be okay, that your kids would be okay. So that's not Dre's fault. Like, I don't care how much money a person has. The mindset that they're just supposed to continue to give and give and give just because they have it, that's not how wealth, generational wealth, is created and maintained. If everybody is just sopping from the well and nobody's doing anything to put back into it to replenish it, the well is going to be empty eventually. So, personally, I don't feel bad for her. I don't feel bad for people who end up in situations like that, because at some point, like, yes, as a parent, you don't want to see your kids doing bad, but at some point, you have to cut the apron strings, and let them figure stuff out on their own.
Gotcha. So I had two thoughts, and one has escaped me. Hopefully, it'll come back. So I agree, and I would say at the time when I first heard, I was specify the Dr. Dre situation. At the time, I think we talked about it on here. I was pretty critical of the woman because, yes, 100%, it was a failure on her part. There was an opportunity she was afforded that little to almost no one gets that opportunity. But she had one and she squandered it. My critique of him comes in, if you should know your children. And if you've never positioned your child to succeed. Oh, that was the other thing I wanted to talk about. So I'm glad he came back. Thank God. So if you haven't positioned your child to succeed, then you shouldn't be surprised when you cut off the well and there's no life skills that have been put in place. And I got a bunch of thoughts going through my head, so I'm going to try and work through this. So the first example I'll give you is Power. Power is a TV show. It's fictional. But the reality of the premise is there. At the end of the day, and if you haven't seen Power by now, that's too bad, spoiler alert. Ghost had set up a fund, in essence, for Tariq. Mm-hmm. That basically, if you go to school and you get your 4-year degree, you get this money. There was something that he put in place that required Tariq at a young age to work to obtain the wealth that existed.
Yeah.
From what I can understand from the Dr. Dre situation, and in a lot of these cases where I believe we see failure on the children that grow up to be absolute jerks and drug addicts or whatever they become, is that's the missing piece. It's one thing to grow up with a silver or gold spoon in your mouth, but if you are conditioned to work or to appreciate the wealth and that it's not just given, it needs to be earned, I think those people can take an empire from one level to the next level. When you're not, and there's that you lack that structure and that discipline, I think you end up with these situations. So the flip for me, and again, I'll use another TV example, is Hillary from Fresh Prince. I do not believe that if Hillary from Fresh Prince was to be put out into the workforce, say at 25, I think she would fail. I think Carlton might have been able to do enough because he got enough maybe through his schooling. Hillary would struggle. And they grew up. But
she didn't struggle. Like, it took her a while to figure out what she wanted to do. Like, she dropped out of school, but eventually, like, it was her and, like, loving to be in front of the camera, her loving herself, that put her in a position to, news anchor or whatever, TV show, all of that stuff. Now, because of the affluence that her family had, that definitely afforded her a different opportunity.
Right.
But had you taken her out, like you said, if you took her out of that equation where they weren't rich and famous, they weren't rich, then she would have struggled. But if you're taking away the riches, that means they would have just been an average family and she would have had to figure it out.
So what I expect when I see these children, like the Huxtable kids, most of them, I believe, turned out pretty decent.
Except for Denise. She struggled.
She did. But I think their structure looked a certain type of way. Mm-hmm. I believe they had to work for things. They were taught good life lessons. And so to me, yes, Dr. Dre's daughter failed. And I've gone to school, I've went to college, and I've seen a bunch of rich kids. People we went to high school with, that in hindsight, I realized they actually had a lot of money growing up that I didn't really realize at the time. And I see where some of them are today, and it's just like,
how did you mess that up?
Like, you should have been farther. But I think it comes from the structure of the environment. And so for that, to me, is where I put it on Dre. Somewhere, somehow, he allowed her to get, I think she's 30-something now?
She's almost 40.
Yeah. Somehow you allowed her to get all the way through almost her entire 30s on this allowance without developing some kind of structure. So for me to say she's 35, I don't know the numbers in my head. Say at 35, all of a sudden you're like, you know what? We're done. I don't believe he set her up to be successful. I would imagine at that point, when you've had multiple children, that's my lifestyle now. I think you're asking a ton of someone to get out into the workforce who's never had to be in the workforce at late 30s, 40. Like that.
So then, because I've had this debate a few times, especially when it was first going on. So the onus is on Dre to make sure that she learns when he didn't even raise her. Her mother did.
Agreed. But if I am supporting you, then yes, I believe you as a parent, you should have some understanding of your child to recognize I can't just pull. And I don't know, maybe there were conversations where it kept saying, I'm going to cut you off, I'm going to cut you off, I'm going to cut you off. But similar to how Ghost did, there should have been things put in place leading up to this cutoff that she had to hit certain benchmarks where maybe a certain amount of money was available to her. He has the money to put something in a trust that says if you hit these benchmarks, you will have access to this amount of resources. Versus I'm just cutting you off, period. You're on your own. And I would like to believe that he had to have some semblance of an idea of how much money she had saved.
But then it's obviously we are never going to know the intimate details of what their relationship was like. But to my knowledge, they didn't really have a relationship before this happened.
But he was still paying.
Right. And then when the whole cutoff thing happened, I did hear that the money that she had been living off of was money from a trust that she'd had access to since she was, I guess, maybe 18 years old. And that whenever she needed anything extra, she was able to go through his network of people and get other things that she may have needed or wanted or whatever. So in my mind, when I hear that, it's like, well, you had a set amount of money to begin with. If that's the case, you had a set amount of money to begin with. Excuse me. If you didn't have, if you don't have a relationship with Dre, and she's never had a really good relationship with him, who else is supposed to take ownership in making sure that this young woman is able to support herself? Because regardless of when she got access to the money that she was spending, she had a whole lifetime with her mother. And I think...
And I can't put that on the kid. I don't know where that child support money would have went to.
All I'm saying is that taking the money out of the equation, she had a mother. And she lived with her mother. And from what I understand, one of her aunts also helped raise her.
So that tells me her mother's probably not the best influence.
So I don't know the intricate details of this family situation, but from what I understand, her and Dre have never had a really good relationship. And again, when she needed something, she couldn't just call him straight up and say, "Hey, Dad, can I get?" She had to speak to a lawyer or some like a representative of Dre, and they would approve or however they figured it out. So to me, someone else also took part in raising this young woman. But instead of being upset with the fact that she's now almost 40 years old and she has no skills to maintain her lifestyle, there's nothing that she knows how to do to make the same money she was making. And
she was never going to be able to do that.
No, she wasn't. But and then instead of trying to figure things out, she goes to blogs and gossip magazines to bash her dad basically and shame him to get him to give her more money.
Right, but that's a different conversation. So I agree that I would put that in the box of desperation. When people get desperate, they'll do desperate things. We see it in society, we see it in social media, we see it in entertainment all the time. People will do some really whacked out stuff for fame. So that I'm not defending that. And I also don't want this to be taken that I'm completely absolving her of any responsibility. I'm not doing that. What I'm saying is outside of money, I don't believe she was set up to be successful in the real world.
Right, but that's not just Dre's fault.
And I'm not saying it's just Dre's fault, but your stance seemed to be like Dre did more than enough and that should have been it. And I don't agree with that. I think if he was constantly, whether she was going through to directly him or not, if he was still choosing to support her by whatever intricate means that they had set up, to then take that away, I believe he has a responsibility to have put things in place to make sure that she would be in a better position than she was.
Nah, son. Like our kids, for example, God forbid something happens to us, we're unable to, see them past the age of 18. We've set up trusts for them. They get access to the trust at 18. They've gone to school. We put in place something similar to Ghost thing. You get the money. You can do whatever you want with the money. It's your money to do whatever you want as long as you met the requirements to gain access to it. So in 15 years, the time that they get the money until they've completely gone through the money in 15 years, and now they have nothing, no money, no business, no nothing. God forbid, I pray that that's not ever a situation with our own kids. What do you do at that point?
But that's a different situation. We live with our kids. We're raising our kids. We're developing our kids. We're checking their homework. We're having the one-on-one conversations. We're showing them and teaching them things it sounds like this girl didn't get. So in that same scenario, imagine that hypothetically we hit the lottery. And so we were super rich, but we were strung out on drugs. We was out in the streets. Our kids were constantly with neighbors or family members, and they weren't around. The likelihood of them, and they got bad grades. We didn't do anything about the bad grades. We didn't check the bad grades. We didn't set up parent conferences. And then because it's somewhat responsible enough, at 18, we said, yes, you're going to get some of this lottery money. I do not think that those kids would be set up to be successful when they got all that money.
But so again, if we're going to go back to the same whole topic of the village thing, we both know that none of the people in our familial circle will let our kids be failures. And we know that, we've talked about it.
Yeah, I don't agree with that.
The only people we've ever talked about taking over for us if something happened to us have been our parents. Our parents would not let our kids just fall off the scale and go crazy.
That's not an equivalent example for her, because in the scenario we're talking about,
she was raised by her mom and her mom failed her too.
Correct. So you're putting the onus on the daughter. I'm saying this daughter, outside of the fact that Dre gave her money, she didn't learn life skills.
But so the onus is on all of the adults in the situation.
I agree, him included.
Right. I didn't say that he has no responsibility at all.
If you continue to fund her lifestyle, and obviously you're not checking to see how she's performing in life, you could be enabling her.
But maybe he wasn't continuing to fund her lifestyle. That's what I'm saying.
She was able to go through means to keep getting money up until the beginning of last year.
But what if that stopped because the money in the trust ran out?
That's not the way I've heard it reported. She was able to go and get money as she needed.
Money. Right.
It wasn't that it was a fund in a set dollar amount. It was when I need something, I can go get it. And if as a parent, I continue to give you that money, and I realize maybe I have to give you money a lot, or I'm giving you large amounts and it keeps disappearing, and I don't see any fruit of my money, at some point I need to take a step back as a parent and say, where is the money going? That's probably part of the situation. We'll probably never know. And that to me is on the parent.
Because you don't typically just cut someone off out of the blue like that. So he probably was telling her, like, you need to figure something out because this isn't going to continue to happen.
But is it just you need to figure something out, or hey, I've done Apple deals, I've done record deals. I'm going to put you in touch with my contacts and my people that will help groom you to do something. Because just saying, hey, you need to do better without helping guide someone that clearly needs guidance doesn't help the kid.
So we know we'll stick with our own children. you didn't have a relationship with one of our kids, let's just, because that's what it was. He didn't. It wasn't like he was having constant.
This is a hypothetical.
Yes. This
okay,
is
like I do have a relationship with. Okay,
let's say when they get older, you don't have a relationship with one of our kids.
Okay.
The only time you talk about them or you hear about them is when I am speaking about them.
Okay.
Or they're speaking to me through, like I'm the go-between. They need something.
Mm-hmm.
And they need something so big that it's not something I can just give them by myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I come to you, Mr. Man of the household, to get the stamp of approval to give them whatever it is they need.
Okay.
But you have no relationship with them.
Okay.
You are not happy with their life. And this has been for years that you have no relationship with them.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, you say what?
But I've been continually giving them money over the years.
Yes.
Then I'm going to keep giving them the money.
Well, you haven't been giving it to them. I have been giving it to them. I'm the go-between.
That's not the same situation.
It is the same situation. Instead of a lawyer, it's their mom.
That's totally different. In a divorce, that can be completely different. Like, I would be much more open probably to give the money to a lawyer than you. So if you come in, I'm definitely not giving it. Because I can't even guarantee. I mean, in that situation they are. I don't know if they were ever married.
He was never married to her mom.
Right.
And he never raised her.
Right.
They had no relationship.
But he was funding it. So I believe he has a level of responsibility. It's the same thing if you have a kid in your home.
Yeah.
And he's strung out on drugs. And you know he's going to give you, he comes to you and say, I need money. And you give him money. And God forbid that child overdoses. A lot of that's on you.
But see, and that's the thing. I'm not doing that.
You're not doing what?
I'm not giving my kid money for
But
drugs.
in this scenario, he did up until a year ago. So from 18 to say 35, that's half her life. As an adult, he's been funding.
Well, then maybe my stance is I'm not funding a grown adult.
But if you did, then you have a level of responsibility in the outcome. And I think at that point, for him to, and I'm guessing this is what he was expecting. All right, now you need to go get a job. What, like, at 40, you're going to start your first job. You have no work history. You probably have no college education.
But
like,
so again,
if you've allowed it to go that long, you got to eat that.
You don't have to eat it.
You don't have to. You're correct.
You don't have to.
You should eat that. You should have cut that off at like 25.
No.
Maybe 30.
But that's what I'm saying. I don't believe he just up one day and decided, hey, I've been helping you your whole life. Now you're done. I believe he probably had been telling her for a long time, hey, get your stuff together. I don't know what you want to do. I don't know what you got to do, but start to try to figure your life out. Because one of the main things that she was saying when, all of this was going on was she was complaining about the amount of money that are they divorced now? That his now ex-wife, the money that woman was going to get should be going to her and her mom.
That's nonsense.
That's what she said, though.
I know, but that's nonsense.
How she felt. And that one screams of entitlement to something that you didn't work for,
Agreed.
something that you didn't do anything.
But why does she feel that way?
And
he created that culture.
I'm just saying, I personally don't think that's all of the situation. I'm positive, like, this, because who was it? The Hiltons, Paris and Nicole.
Yeah.
They lived off their parents, the Hilton empire for a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
But it's very well known in, I guess, the rich folk community that there's a thing in place that if you don't become some sort of successful business, maintain your life, whatever, you don't get access to the family wealth after a certain age. You're cut off. And no, who was it? Paris? She partied her way right up until
it was time to straighten up.
It was time to get her life together.
And she's done well.
And now she's like a DJ and she does all this other stuff. Like, I don't think that that's not a conversation, especially wealthy people we're talking about.
But she was raised with the rich people. She wasn't raised by some poor parent.
Either way, I don't think
that makes a difference.
I don't think that's a thing that just happens overnight. You don't just go from supporting someone their whole life to tomorrow you wake up and your bank accounts are empty.
We talked about that on our last pod. That is what happens. At 18, you got to go.
So even then, like most kids, they know at 18, I got to figure something out.
Correct. I don't believe, and maybe she did, but even in that, okay, so you start telling a kid a year, you need to start applying for jobs. You need to start looking into the military. You need to get your grades up, all that. There's a bunch of kids that at 18 fail. So you can prep them, but if they're not ready, they haven't had real life experiences, more times than not, especially black and a black woman at that, with multiple kids, is going to fail. And so she's going to make bad decisions, which is why she had the car she couldn't afford. That's normal for a 16, 18, 22-year-old. I see people that join the military all the time. What they go do? Get a stupid expensive car. Kids do that. You got a bunch of money. We've seen all these teen hip hop stars grow up. When they get money, they spend it like children. And to me, her life shows me she's not mature. She was not prepared for the life that she now has to live. And so she definitely didn't make it any better for herself by going and talking to blogs. But I believe she was trying to chase a dollar. And that's probably all she knew to try and make money. And I wouldn't be surprised if her mom and her aunt or whatever was coaching her to, hey, that money's cut off. We got to do something. And maybe if we guilt him, we can get that the faucet turned back on.
Yeah, the wrong one. But that's the thing. Like, I could see if they had a different relationship. I would be more under. I guess that's the better way to put it. I would be more understanding if Dre was a part of her life. If he had done more fatherly duties. Like, I'm not giving him Father of the Year award. Like, he don't deserve none of that. But what I'm saying is she had no relationship with this man. And like, again, I'm under a very strong belief that she knew eventually this money wasn't going to be her cushion anymore.
And that's where we disagree. Nothing about the way she handled this situation tells me she knew she was about to get cut off.
So you really believe Dre just woke up one day and said, hey, don't give her anything else?
I mean, I think it could have been a situation we see a lot of times where we do this. We tell our kids, hey, you do this one more time, this is going away. And they do it again, and they don't go away. Hey, if you do it one more time, I'm going to get you. And then they do it again. And it's over and over and over. So, yeah, through the years, he probably said, yo, get your life together, I'm cutting it off. And then she would go behind the scenes and get some more money. And, hey, man, we ain't even got a relationship. I don't even rock with you like that. Work with my people. I'm sick of dealing with this. And she'd go right back and come again. And I'm sure that I believe probably went on for a lot of time. And I'm guessing the amount of money she was given was decent enough to support her for a little bit. And so it wasn't happening all the time. He wasn't seeing it all the time. And for him, it wasn't probably a big deal. But eventually, he said, all right, I'm done. And he was actually done. And I think that's on him. Because when you've set up a pattern where the kid knows, yeah, you're mad now, but you'll get over it. And I'll be able to go watch TV. I'll be able to go do whatever it is that I do once you calm down a little bit. But then you're actually serious. When you've developed this habit and this system, I think that's on the parent. And I've said that with our situation. We have to stop saying we're going to discipline, and then because our lives are busy, we don't stick to the discipline. Mm-hmm. That's on us. And I believe a lot of this is on him. I believe he gave her financial support, but he didn't do anything else to make sure that she was prepared for life. Neither did her mother at all, 100%. And I put the onus more on her mother than on Dre because she lived in the household. But I'm guessing from what I can tell, the mother didn't know better. And so then you add the daughter had kids, which becomes a whole different conversation. And it's a mess. But I believe if he was funding it, there's a certain level of responsibility he has as the person funding it.
Yeah, we can agree to disagree.
Fair enough.
So then, like, when you start talking about that level of wealth, again, the issue becomes Dre's got the kind of money that you can't just spend in overnight. But you could very easily, in a generation, it'd be gone. If you're supporting everybody, if everybody is coming to you, if you are the well, at what point you, the person, say, hey, I don't have a problem with giving you money, but I'm not going to continue to give you money if you're not doing anything with the money that's going to make you money. I'll invest in you. I'll invest in your business. But if it continuously becomes me investing in something that never pays off any kind of profit, I'm not going to continue to do that. And a big part of the conversation that people were having when this situation came to light was, he's got all the money in the world, like, just give it to her. You don't want to see your grandkids out on the street, all this, that, and the third.
Mm-hmm.
But regardless of all of that, if you continue to just support everybody, that money goes away. So,
I mean, I think there's levels to it. I agree. And I think that's the case for like rich people, not wealthy people. Like Dre's Dre. The Diddy's, the Dre's, the Jay-Z's, that level of people, the Kanye's, yes, you can't fund a ton of people. And that, when you start talking about aunts and uncles and grandmas and grandpas and second and third cousins, yeah, we've gone too far. But when we're talking spouse, daughter, this is just me. He could put her on some BS payroll and give her $10,000 a month. At $120,000 a year, now she might need to move out of LA. She might need to move to somewhere. Maybe I don't know where she need to move, but she can move somewhere else. And Dre would not see that $10,000 a month. He would not care that he spent $120,000 a year given to his daughter. And that's if she did absolutely nothing. But if you do employ her or put her in contact with someone and say, hey, as long as you keep showing up to work, this will keep coming. Cool. But at least in this situation, she was working for DoorDash. So it leads me to believe she was at least willing to work. Employ her somewhere. And then just stipend her. And then you can, now with the thing, you can 1099 or whatever you want to do. I think there were a lot of other alternatives between, I've been supporting you from 18 to say, I'm just making this number up it should be older than this, to 35. And now, you know what? We good. You can't come to me no more. I think there's a huge middle ground with his wealth and where she is with those kids that they could have met. And the fact that they have no relationship, I think that obviously plays a huge part. But I think there was a miss there, and I fault all the parties involved. But I think he does
especially Dre, because he's
I think he does get a bigger part because he funded it. If he would have cut her off at 22, 25, I don't really have much to say because that's one thing. But when you've funded it for almost 20 years and now all of a sudden you're tired of it, I don't think that's fair to her.
But again, that goes back to my point is I just think it's more to the story than he just decided one day to wake up and say, nah, you can't have anything else. Like, and that doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't. Got hair. Anyway. Yeah, it doesn't. It doesn't make sense to me, personally.
Fair enough. Well, we would love to hear y'all comments. Love to hear what y'all think about this situation or situations in general where, parents have, in essence, enabled their kids for a while and then they finally get tired of it. Can't wait for Succession to come back. That kind of talks.
No, that's going to be so good.
On that, and sometimes you get kids that are a little too ambitious. And that presents a whole different conversation. But again, thank y'all for rocking with us. Episode 32 down. Episode 33 on the way. In life, things happen. You have the power to choose what you do. We just talked about that. Please choose wisely, but always bet on you. And if you've been blessed by us, go ahead and bless us, especially with this fourth child on the way. Cash App's there. Been scrolling at the bottom, as well as other means. We can probably talk about Cash App, Venmo, and all those things and the changes that they're making. But
no, maybe we gotta figure something else out.
Well, we're gonna take it and we'll just get taxed on it because we're law-abiding citizens that do the right thing.
Yeah.
We are. I don't break any laws anymore. Those days are long gone. So we love y'all. Appreciate y'all. Until next time.